The problems I see in the knife community. This is pretty much a follow-up video to my video on hating Civivi knives. I didn't realize, I guess, how many people loved their Civivi knives. Like, that video got like 1,300 views in 2 days, or 1,400 views in 2 days. It's crazy to me. I thought like someone must have put a link on some Civivi forum or something like that. I looked at the analytics, and no, they're all from fucking YouTube recommendations. So apparently, I'm back in the good graces of the YouTubes. Either that or Civivi pays them to fucking promote their shit or something. I don't know what's up with that. Maybe just everybody loves Civivi knives now. It's just like shit comment after shit comment after shit comment of person who's offended at the fact that how dare you not love the thing that they love. I'm like, I'm not saying you shouldn't like Civivi knives. I'm not saying you shouldn't buy Civivi knives, except for the fact that they're made in China and the Chinese literally want to kill us and you shouldn't support China. But, like, that's 100% how people take that fucking video. I'm like, all I said was, I hate Civivi knives because they're made in China and they're kind of cheap and I don't like their designs. They're kind of fugly looking. That's it. Sorry to offend the makers of the widgets, or whatever. But all of those people are a part of, you know, one of the problems I see in the knife community, and that's there's a bunch of little like camps of fucking things to be into or whatever. And I'm a member of a few of those, but one of the ones I'm not a member of is this like, you know, quest for the perfect EDC knife or whatever the fuck it is, where like there's so many big channels now on YouTube that just do EDC gear. And I think a combination of that mixed with some of the stuff the knife industry does to market and sell knives has created this group of people that, you know, have sucky opinions on knives, in my opinion. And whether it's, you know, liking Civivi knives because, well, they have really good materials. I'm like, what do you do with that knife that is like a 3-inch folding, you know, liner lock or fucking Axis style lock or button lock EDC knife that it needs to be made out of, you know, some specialty super steel or whatever, and has to have G10 on the handles? Like, most of these guys probably open the fucking tape on their Amazon box to get their next knife with their knife, and that's about it. And shit, some little cheapo plastic buck knife could do that shit for you. And like some of the camps that I'm a part of is like survival knife people, wilderness knife people, bushcrafters, pocket fixed blade people, you know, custom knives, into that too. Like, I have my own camps that I'm a part of or whatever. It just, I don't understand some of the other camps, especially in this like locking, folding pocket knife people. And like, these are the people that you see obsessing over what the steel their knife is made out of. I care a little bit what steel my knife is made out of, but not that much. Like, if you look at some of the stuff I buy, you know, it's mostly carbon steel and some basic cheapo stainless steels. Occasionally I'll buy something in a higher end steel just because I want it, but you don't really need it. And some of these people are to the point where like they bought the industry hype so fucking much that, you know, S30V, that's a garbage steel. Dude, that steel was popular like 10 years ago. Like, don't you know about the new hotness? Don't you know about MagnaCut? Or, you know, uh, was it CV20 or some shit like that? I don't even know or care, really. I knew the steel earlier today. It's been a long day. And oh, CPM 20V or some shit like that. Like, I just don't care. Like, literally, there's a point in which the steel has to be good enough to make a knife out of. And is 420 the best steel in the world? No, you can do better than that. But to say that S30V is some old hat thing that you shouldn't buy is also complete nonsense. When S30V first came out, I was kind of amazed that I bought a pocket knife and carried it for a year and had 0 rust issues and never had to sharpen it once. That was kind of crazy. And when you start going above that and all these super steels, like, what are you trying to achieve with the knife? Like, I think a lot of it stems from people not being able to sharpen their knives. And, like, maybe that's a whole fucking issue right there, is that you're super into knives and yet can't sharpen a knife yourself. These are the kind of guys I'm talking about. You know, I want a Spyderco quality knife, but I have to have it for $50 because whatever reason. Like, I don't understand that. It's nice to get a good deal on something, but if the thing that makes that knife a good deal is it being manufactured in China, I just don't think that's a good trade-off. Sorry. In general, when it comes to that sort of a knife, if I was even going to buy one at all, which I think is a considerable if, I'd be buying something like a Spyderco or a Benchmade and not a fucking WE knife or a Civivi. That's just my own personal preference. And that's from a couple decades of owning those kind of knives. Like, they make designs I like. They charge an acceptable price for what they sell. And I like the steels they use. I don't see a reason to start buying some crazy shit from China. Maybe I'm just like getting to be an old man in the knife community or whatever, but in general, most of the time, I'd rather have a carbon steel blade than a stainless steel blade. And why is that? Well, that's because I don't care about corrosion at all. And in my experience and opinion, all the stuff that you're doing to achieve those stainless steels, it either makes the steel expensive, hard to sharpen, or not very durable, or all three of those. Like, some of these super steels that you guys are fans of or whatever, if you actually take them out and use them on, you know, bushcrafty type stuff or whatever, you're gonna get chips in the blade. They're hard, so hard to the point of being brittle. You know, I see people talk about MagnaCut and how it should be heat treated to, you know, was it 62 Rockwell or something like that? This is my skeptical hippo face you're looking at right now. Even though you can't see it. I'm very dubious of that. And, well, you don't understand. It's the technology of the fucking widget maker. They've got a super steel that they can harden that hard and it doesn't chip out. Doubtful. I tend to like fixed blades more than folders, and decades of using fixed blades tells me that stainless steels in general chip, and carbon steels in general chip way the fuck less. That's kind of one of the main reasons I like carbon steels. There's a few others, but it's all this like one-upmanship and having to have the best, you know, pocket lightsaber shit that I'm just like, I could really care less about. So I don't bother playing those games. One of the guys that taught me a lot of shit about knife making was CMFTW Knives, and one of his favorite sayings was never pay for hype. And this shit is like the definition of paying for hype. You know, you look at a knife from, let's take Essie for example, and look at it in 1095, and it's like a $100 knife, maybe a $50 knife, depending on exactly which model we're talking about. That same model is available in MagnaCut. How much is it now? Oh, it's only $350. Okay. You don't see how that's bad money? And that's in a fixed blade where like you're gonna use it a lot if you use it like I do. If you're talking a folding knife, what is it that you do every day with your folding pocket knife that makes it have to have some super steel? It's probably nothing really. Like, you're doing it to have cooler EDC pocket dumps on Instagram or some shit. These are the same sort of guys who, in their EDC, carry a custom handkerchief and 3 tactical pins and a mini gaming console to play retro PS2 games on or some shit, which, not dogging that at all, it's just I wouldn't carry one every day. And they're like, yeah, this is my EDC. I'm like, what do you do? Like, okay, you get bored some places and play video games. I got that. Got tactical pins, so you write tactically a lot. Got that. There's no survival items in your EDC, so you don't obviously give a fuck about that. Bunch of titanium widgets. It's like a fucking fashion show for man children. I make the occasional EDC video on here, but my EDC stuff is like the bare bones minimum shit that I actually need and use, like keys in a wallet, and trying to integrate survival related items into those, and maybe what kind of knife to carry. You know, do you want a folding knife? Do you want a pocket fixed blade? Multi-tool? Okay. It's not, well, this titanium keyring from such and such company sucks because it has tiny magnets. But if you get the new titanium keyring from, you know, Bespoke Outfitters R Us, it has giant magnets in it and you won't lose your keys anymore. I keep my keys in my pocket. Like, yeah, I know, that's crazy. But it's so much better if you keep your keys on your belt in the titanium bespoke clip. I'm like skeptical hippo face again. Like, you people are ridiculous. You're trying to carry as much shit as possible, but the shit that you're carrying is like toys and fidget spinners and yo-yos and $300 knives that you barely ever use. In reality, most of these people could probably get away with having a $20 knife. But that's not cool. I need to have the cool knife with the G10 handles and the 8CR110 SV10 CPM steel. It was just developed by Special Forces in Canada to make dive knives out of. It's the greatest steel on earth. Like, what the fuck are you even talking about? And the whole, custom handkerchief thing. Like, what the fuck is that? Like, there's many or multiple companies that make that sort of shit, and they range in size from, pretty big companies to little tiny makers that make these things by hand. And I'm like, clearly some people have too much time to waste on their EDC shit. And I don't know, like, this wasn't a thing 15 years ago. Like, there were people like me who were like, man, I'm EDC and this, that, and the other thing, and here are the reasons why. And it was always like basically a fanny pack full of survival equipment. Or at least survival items integrated into shit you were carrying, and maybe a little first aid kit or something like that. It wasn't a bunch of just useless junk and titanium clips to free up space in your pockets to carry more useless junk. Maybe some of these guys are very, white collar guys that work in some office with computers all day, and, they need a micro bit driver to do X, Y, and Z, and they're worried about that. And they carry a knife because they think it's cool, and the rest of it is just kind of a fashion show playground. At least that's what it seems like to me. And, if that's what you want to do, get the stuff that you want to get. Like, don't let my opinion influence it. It's just, this is the trend that I've been noticing develop over the last 5 or 10 years or so. And most of it seems to stem from YouTube and Instagram. And it's YouTube channels that are all about this kind of gear, recommending different things to people. And some of those channels are very much this guy that I'm describing, that he's not integrating survival equipment or whatever into his EDC. He's, trying to have a cool pocket dump for Instagram. And I think a heavy amount of the influence of this shit is a result of social media and Instagram. Where, well, I want, my EDC picture to be such and such a way, and I need the handkerchief to have something to lay it all on so it looks cool and consistent and whatever. And, okay, I don't understand. I really don't. It's not my thing. And then on top of that, you have the knife companies and their marketing departments that have, for the last 25 plus years, been justifying charging ridiculous amounts for knives because of whatever type of steel it is that they're using. And like the chief, criminals in this aspect are like Spyderco and Benchmade and the like, that kind of got this ball started and rolling, in my opinion. And it's ended up at shit like Jack Wolf knives, Civivi knives, WE knives. Like, in my opinion, modern traditional slip joints or whatever are kind of cool, but they're kind of pointless. And all these fancy lock blades or whatever that are, some of my issues with these are that they're folding knives with locking mechanisms that are kind of uncomfortable for me to use, just from like a hand comfort standpoint. They're all a little bit too small. They're all a little bit too light. And all of that stems from the EDC community where, well, I have to have a lightweight knife because my Game Boy weighs 20 pounds. Or whatever thing it is they're fucking carrying that makes them carry a Benchmade bug out instead of a real knife. I don't know, maybe I just don't see enough of this shit that, like, there's still a lot of people out there integrating real tools and real survival items or whatever into their EDC. Or maybe that's a different community than these guys. That could totally be it too. But man, do the knife marketing people love you people. You're willing to dump $300 or $400 on a knife just for clout. And the second that they put out some model that they've already been making at, one price for a price that's double whatever standard was, because now it's in the new hotness steel, and they love you again, don't they? Why is that? Well, you're paying for hype. You're not doing what's actually necessary for you to fucking get through your life. You're buying shit to show off. It's sort of like if in the old West you went around wearing 1950s style cowboy clothes with fucking rhinestones and silver and fucking shit all over it, like, real cowboys would have been laughing at you. That's kind of what I see here, is like, I think a lot of the people that are into this shit are kind of younger, and they grew up seeing, the last couple of generations start to get into EDC stuff, and they watched EDC videos from somebody like Nuttin' Fancy, where he's carrying, all of this junk in a fanny pack because he thinks it helps him in his day-to-day life and survive in an emergency. And now they're going, wow, I should think about my EDC. And like, they're doing a parody almost. They're mimicking what they see adult men do. I think it's an interesting look behind the curtain of the psyche of the men in our society. I'm just going to go out there on a limb too and say, if you're carrying a Game Boy, 3 tactical pins, and 8 pounds of titanium fucking widgets that all match, you're a part of this problem. And it's not really about actually using the stuff that you carry. It's about, fashion. It's about toys. It's about, some of it is legitimately probably stuff that helps them in their real life, like key organization or having their keys clipped to their belt instead of in their pocket. If that's what you want to do, go ahead and do it. I'm not dogging that totally. It's just, it's not for me. 1. And 2, some of this stuff is a tremendous waste of money. Some titanium stuff or whatever is cheap and made in China and whatever. And if there's some $20 thing that makes you like your keys better, go buy it. But some of it's, $100, $200. I recently inquired a custom Swiss Army knife maker. He's not really a maker. He bolts together parts or whatever, about getting something custom done because I wanted to add tools. to this Farmer X and basically couldn't get the tools that I wanted added to this Farmer X. Not realistically. But you know what he could do was make me a fucking titanium sided fucking thing that had all the same tools on it. And I'm like, and how much is that? Oh, $300. Dude, I just want to add pliers to my current Swiss Army knife. Is that so fucking crazy? Like, and why does it need to be titanium sided? I mean, this is, again, people are doing this as a fashion statement to match all of the titanium gear that they're carrying from whatever companies. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do that if that's what you like to do. What I am saying is that I don't do that, and I'm proud. you know? And if you do all of this stuff, do you carry, things that would be nice to have in an emergency as well? Or do you only carry a Game Boy and tactical pens? Some of the EDC community and stuff carry guns and knives and whatever survival equipment. I've seen it, but like a lot of the ones I'm talking about, they're not doing this to carry a weapon. They're not doing this, to carry survival equipment. They're carrying toys and pins and handkerchiefs, and I really don't understand. It's sort of like, I remember the EDC community like 15 years ago and being like, yeah, it's kind of cool. Everybody's trying to square away the stuff they carry every day and carry either less stuff they don't need or add capabilities that might be nice to have. And every year since then, the further we stray from God. And this sort of thing leads to Civivi knives being popular, to bring it full circle on that, because they have features that people like who are in these communities for whatever reason, whether it's the steel type or the handle material choice or the locking mechanism. And they're all hot because of those things, and now there's a $60 knife that does those things. I don't have to pay $200 for a Spyderco. But is it as cool as a Spyderco? Really? Really? No, it's not. The Spyderco is cool because it's good at what it does. And looks good. And I really can't say that about any of the Civivi knives. I don't think they look good, number one. And number two, they're all... I like a 4-inch blade, whether it's on a folding knife or a fixed blade for EDC. And part of that's because I have bigger hands and I like a little bit bigger handle. And when you look through Civivi's lineup, they're not selling knives to me. They're selling knives to these people that want a 3-inch blade that, is made out of wonder steel and has handle materials made by the gods or whatever, even though most of these are like G10 or something like that. And I'm like, G10 isn't expensive, right? Basically, almost every fucking knife you want could have G10 handles. I'm not like advocating for non-G10 knives or whatever. I like G10 on knives. I just think it's weird that that's the thing that like sells you on this knife. Maybe I'm being kind of hypocritical because like I like the Spydercos or whatever, but I don't like the Civivi knives. But I almost look at it like someone buying like scuba diving equipment or something like that, and they're buying some, you know, third-rate knockoff of real equipment and then wondering why they're having issues. Or maybe, you know, you won't have any issues with your Civivi knife. I don't fucking know. I don't care. I don't buy the fucking things. They're very clearly not made to sell to me. But I'm also not, you know, trying to pair a knife to my pocket handkerchief and Game Boy and titanium widgets and figuring out how to free up space to carry more tactical pins. Because the 3 I'm already carrying really aren't enough. I need at least 2 more. You know, don't mention the fact that I don't have a fire starter on my fucking EDC anywhere. As nice as that might be to have. I do have a flashlight though. You know, that's another thing that people go fucking nuts over is whatever flashlight they're EDCing. And to some extent, I get that it's a useful tool. But again, you cross into this realm of ridiculous where, I have to get this one that's $200 because it's in titanium and it's got topo mapping engraved on it, and that matches my topo mapping engraved keyring. It strikes me as like some chick shit or something, like we're trying to be all matchy and why are we doing this again? Who looks at this shit other than you? Back to my point about Instagram. I have to look cool for the gram. Maybe this is a generational thing or something. I'd post EDC pictures on Instagram and it would be what I actually carried, and like, I don't know, I'd get comments like, why do you do this? Why do you do that? Or, you know, that's a trash knife and keyring or whatever, like all this stuff. And I'm like, uh-huh. You mean because my keyring is actually just a fucking keyring? But don't you hate, what is it? The little standard like split ring key rings. Don't you hate constantly taking keys on and off of those? What am I constantly taking on and off of those? You know, this video's kind of gone on long enough, but I just don't see any of the logic that goes into any of this shit. And to sum up what this video is, it's, man, them kids are crazy. You know, with their $300 Chinese-made modern slip joints and pocket handkerchiefs and tactical pins and titanium widgets and miniaturized Game Boys. You know, these same people would make fun of a girl because she had to have a Louis Vuitton handbag and have matching accessories and pot, kettle, you know. That's what I see when I see this. It's like, you're either acting like man children or you're acting like girls. I think a lot of it really is that they're being a parody of masculinity. It's like the whole generation that wears flannel, ironically, and wears a beanie cap or whatever. Like, there's a whole bunch of those guys, hipsters. I think that's a big part of this too, is the EDC community used to be like gun guys, knife guys, and survival guys kind of doing their shit. And now it's been invaded by a bunch of hipsters that don't even get why they are doing what they're doing. They're just doing it because they thought it was cool on the Instagram. And when it comes to your EDC, try to carry less. And when you do add stuff to your EDC, it should add capabilities, not fashion. And just to put it out there, a tactical pen is basically fucking useless. Well, if it got in an emergency, I could use it as a Kubotan. Okay. Like, I don't even know where to touch that one. Why do you have 3 of them? Well, they might run out of ink because they aren't, Fisher Space Pen cartridges. They're, cartridges from X, Y, or Z company. I'm like, okay, so it's not even a really good tactical pen. It's a shitty tactical pen. Gotcha. Now, I like this one for writing on this kind of paper, and I like this one for writing on this kind of paper. And at the end of it, the real answer is because they're obsessed with the tactical pens and they carry multiples of them because they're showing off. These are kind of like the guys that carry 14 knives or whatever in their pockets. We've all known somebody like that. We're like, they really like knives, so they carry a lot more than what they need just because they fidget with the shit in their pockets, and they're like, I bought all this stuff, I want to carry it. That's a huge part of this, is I spent money on it and now I have to carry it. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this. Like, maybe I'm just way the fuck off on this, but when I take a look at the EDC community in particular, I just think most of it is kind of ridiculous. I'll see you guys later.